Hello, I'm FX. I have the pleasure of, doing a weird-ass talk for you, so that everything else after me looks and sounds technical. I was told I should say something about me. Basically, I don't know why I'm getting keynotes, but I like giving them. This basically is about why do we do what we actually do, which usually looks like this, right? Do you really want to do that? Do you really want to run System D? No, you don't. Basically, what we used to do is playing with computers, with technology, because it's fun, because it looks scary, hacks, wow, cool. And then everyone else decided to use technology. I mean, I still don't understand why people that, let's say, work in a bakery need to have a computer. Because as I think it was an MIT professor who said, I'm not in computer science because I like computers. I'm in computer science because I want to keep an eye on those fuckers. And that is very true for me as well. And I also like to not being told what I do with my technology. So when I pay a lot of money for a piece of technology, I don't want someone else to tell me what to do. See, this is what happens. You're nice to one side, showing the finger to the other. This is actually the hex code that you saw. So, giving keynotes. Who am I? Does that work? No, of course not. Oh, kind of like yes. That takes ages. So basically, I'm running, let me rephrase that. My best friend runs a company for me called Security Labs. We do security consulting, high-end security consulting. One of my, they call themselves Smurfs, is also a presenter here. So we basically get to see a lot of stuff in the industry. We test all kinds of computer systems that are usually in things that are not meant to be computer systems. Aircrafts, medical devices, cars, that type of thing. And we do a lot of research, internal research, some of which now turned into another company, where basically we're teaching computers to trust like humans, because computers those days basically trust you for everything, right? And so as long as the certificate checks out, you're good, right? Although this is a banking website, you only wanted to make sure it's your bank. Now it can actually install software on your computer and do all kinds of things. And this is not how humans work. And human trust also does not have the concept of revocation, because if I stop trusting you, I'm not running around the world telling 8.3 billion people that I did so. We're actually telling them that I have a file that you can download, which then tells you that I did so. In my spare time, of which I have fairly little, I never went to the military, and then, the next thing you know, I turned out to be a NATO director for the biggest non-military mission that they do. Because securing computers is so easy, so, I took up the task to secure an entire country, which is the country of Jordan. So, that much about me. I usually don't do that, but they asked me to. Let's get started. Don't be confused that I keep looking at the slides. I finished them here on stage. So what is hacking? What are we actually doing? right? Is hacking what everyone else in the world thinks to the media thinks, it's the evil people with a ski mask, that sit in front of a computer? Because I'm a white hat pussy, so I don't actually have, let's say, what it takes to wear a ski mask. I figured that that's how I hack, I guess. Should I keep this on? Yes. So that's the white hat ski mask, right? That's silly. Good. So is this hacking? Or is it possibly the term referring to people in the MIT toy train club that actually managed to run a bunch of trains without smashing them into the other trains? That's actually where the term comes from. Because if you ever ran a toy train system, you will know those little keys that you can either flip open to have them permanent or hammer on them. And this is the term hacking, because that's the sound that it made. Right? So, the third possible way is, well, maybe you are a great hacker if you manage to burn material that you actually have sworn about 5 oaths to protect, burn it on a CD, label it Lady Gaga, walk out of it, and then be the only person that flies around the world without a passport. That, in my world, is not hacking, because there's a definition of whistleblowing, and it does not involve you being illegal. It involves the other party being illegal. Basically, proving oneself is hacking, and not giving a shit is not. So, at the end of the day, it's actually up to you. Whatever hacking is up to you. However, be prepared to live up to the consequences of the choices you made. Because this is no longer just about you. It used to be, when we had MS-DOS, and single user, single task, single responsibility. But in a connected world, hacking and what you do with it is actually affecting a lot of people. And this also changes the perception of who cares about what you think. So, your friends. What about your friends? Hacking used to be a pure meritocracy, meaning no matter how ugly you are, if you're skilled compared to your friends, then you're cool. Guess why I started hacking? Well, being skilled, I kind of failed with, but being ugly, I didn't. So it was then later a little bit about fame, which is fine as long as that is in your friend's circle. Then suddenly fame equaled money. I mean, look at Loft, that became AdStake, that then was bought by Symantec and stuff like that. So, I mean, we're talking about a hacker group that was bought by Symantec. I mean, people that can't do security if it bites them in the ass. So, nowadays, it's competition. So, suddenly your friends are your competitors. How about your employer? If you have an employer that actually is smart enough to have an internal security team, rare enough, or to listen to it, almost never happens, basically, you are a risk to your employer's job. So in my work with the NATO, for example, I realized that the military almost never, ever does pen tests on their own networks. Simply because there's 2 cases. Case 1, the general has a very bad gut feeling about the security of their networks, and suddenly something unexpected happens, which is they finally notice that they have someone else in a network, right? There's two types of organizations in the world, those that got hacked and those that didn't notice. And what happens then is he goes in front of the camera, media, and goes like, moo. Good. The other case is he had a pen test before, and he has a bunch of paper on his desk saying you suck and you need to do this and that. And then they get hacked. Very bad for the career. Here goes the pension. So basically, every pen test is killed by the highest possible general that hears of it. And it's killed before it happens. So, who else cares? Your clients, let's say you're self-employed. It used to be quite unique. Well, you needed to tell people why they actually need to hire a hacker. And nowadays, once you're done, and let's assume you're done, and let's assume you don't completely suck and need to report, free referrer, open referrer URLs in your report because you didn't find anything else, like the backdoor passwords that are all over the code. You're reducing everyone's bonus pay because now they have to do something, now they have to spend money on security, which means there's less profit, which means they're getting less bonuses. I mean, guess why everyone is putting Huawei routers in their networks? Because go to the CEO and tell him that he gets a couple millions less bonus per year just because you're having a bad gut feeling about a bunch of Chinese people with a job rotation time of a couple of weeks writing the code of your backbone routers. He doesn't even know what a backbone router is. Or the government. It was a unique resource for a while. So, the hackers, yes, they existed in governments. It's called NSA. But now, I mean, basically, it became a commodity. Then the commodity got a price tag. Because every military in the world and every secret service in the world really wants to have O-Day. And it happens to be the case that they all want to have O-Day against the same target. For example, iPhone. Basically, you turned out to be a very inefficient bug bounty program. Either you get paid for your work or you get paid for the bugs. The second is a bug bounty program. What happened with that is that full disclosure died. That's the first victim, basically. That is interesting. Also the mailing list, but keep in mind, the full disclosure mailing list had as much trolls as 4chan/B. But the only troll that managed to piss off everyone, including the people running it, to the extent that they shut down the mailing list, was someone who did not understand that he had a cool bug and the fucking vendor didn't pay him a bug bounty. And the bug wasn't even cool. In fact, it wasn't even a bug. That pissed off people so much that people stopped hacking because of something like that. I mean, it is silly. The reason that full disclosure used to exist is, by the way, the whole reason that we're having this conference here, the whole reason that we actually have all the issues that we're dealing with, because full disclosure existed to shame vendors into fixing shit. Back in the day, right, when let's say you had a Solaris server, and you actually managed to get it working. And then some punk basically logged in, logged in because this and that service didn't take a password. Nice. And then you reported that to Sun. You're a paying customer, mind you. And you're like, so? Functionality issue? No. Functionality is there. Good. Fuck off. And in order to tell people what the problem is, so they could fix it, you actually had to publish it, which is, running the risk of that the bad guys also know about it, of course, right? And then systems get updated, but then they need to get updated quickly, right? Because if you're not updating the system, then the bad guys know about the vulnerability, they hack you, blah. This became compliance. So, for everyone here that works in the corporate world, compliance is usually the opposite of security. Well, you can spend your money on checking the right checkboxes, or you can spend the money on, not needing the checkboxes because you actually understand what you do. And the thing is, a unpublished vulnerability does not exist nowadays. Anyone heard of Oracle? I mean, the thing is this. A vulnerability in today's world, because there's so many of them basically, is a PR problem. If it doesn't hit the press, it's not a problem because the compliance people will not know about it, so there's not a checkbox for it. And your CEO is not going to piss his pants because his company is mentioned in the evening news. This is where everything went. That is the reason why the United States changed their entire international cyber policy. There's things like that today. That used to be, well, if a IP address hacks us, we just nuke it. And if it was a proxy, bad for the proxy. They changed it to, let's control the arms. What arms? The arms which they mean is vulnerabilities. And the idea of that comes from lobbyists that I suspect to be basically paid by Apple and Oracle. Because if it's controlled arms, which it happens to be now, so the Wassenaar agreement arrangement, which is basically defining what a weapon is that is controlled worldwide. So, it contains parts that you use to build nuclear bombs and stuff like that. Also has a section now on dual use of cyber weapons. And that is very practical for people that consider vulnerabilities a PR problem, because now basically the short of it is Apple can call any country that is a underwriter of the Wassenaar arrangement, which is most of them, and say, go arrest this guy and throw him in a hole and not let him out for the rest of his life because he wrote a jailbreak. Thank you. So this is what happens if we don't pay attention to how we are perceived from the other side of the table, which is this. All you deliver, if any, is more problems. You're affecting real people's iPhones. Angry Birds, that is gender discussions on mailing lists, is Angry Birds. And life happens on Facebook, so don't hack Facebook. This is how most people actually observe and perceive what we do in computer security. So basically, welcome to the dark ages of hacking. And so please bring your criminal record and a couple of fingers that you have left so we can print them. And your certification for success as a clown incapable of system or software protection, also known as CISSP, which I am. No, really. I mean, that's basically, if anyone has ever done a CISSP certification, you know what I mean. How did I come to that? History repeats, either because we're not creative enough or because we're humans. I guess the second. So the definition of a human is an animal that has consciousness in order to, be driven by two things: fear and greed. Not necessarily in this order. So that's basically the short of it, right? So because everyone has different understanding of fear and greed, what we do is we have that rule of the lesser evil. So that's what we call social law. And yeah, the smallest common denominator is what comes out of it. That is the rules. What we are facing today is basically witchcraft. So, when you're a hacker, it's voodoo, voodoo, wizard, Have you learned witchcraft in school? Sorcery? Do you think it ever existed? Maybe it did, but in fact, we actually made bonfires. All of the people that potentially could have known anything about it, plus a couple of other people. That's what we call the Dark Ages, medieval times, right? Basically, that was a couple of 100 years biggest cannibal grilling session in the world. Nothing else, right? So a cannibal barbecue, so to say. It was sometimes about knowledge, but not always. And the thing is, we're doing the same right now. And it is even understandable why people do that, because they have no damn idea what security and hacking actually is about. They only want to play with their iPhone. So, back in the medieval days, right, you had the slightest idea how to, fight the plague, like not 60% of the people around you dying, because your idea was, maybe we should not kiss the dead. Maybe we should, burn them first. Up on the stake, right? Here you go. Really hot around your ass. And not in the way we want it today, right? Like hot asses. You had an idea how to heal wounds, right? or suppress fever, because you actually knew a couple of plans that you could do on, the body, and then suddenly the fever goes down. Who, which, burn, right? That is very similar to, you have an idea that the firewall sucks and is not providing security, burn, here goes your job. It's the same thing that goes on, right? Do you have an idea how to keep mother and child alive when birth doesn't go well? Today known as Kaiser Cut. Against the god, burn. Very similar to, how about not using SAP to control the plant? Absolutely the same thing. And don't even get started on, druidal knowledge, which means, yes, I don't need the source code to read your code, because that's called disassembly, and yes, I can see that you're stupid. What we're told by industries, for example, is we have cyber enlightenment, right? We don't burn people on a stake anymore simply because our social media experts tell us it would look bad on Twitter. Follow me on Facebook is basically like, please kiss my name on the toilet wall. What the hell? Okay. Now, let's talk tech. Where does the tech come from, actually? In fact, all the technology got pretty much more or less invented by hackers. And people are sometimes unintentionally hackers. Tim Berners-Lee admits to, oops, I realized that, I am a hacker when I went to the MIT and to the toy train club. And then, he came, that was after he came up with the stupid idea, No, it is not wake but exciting, he called it, when he proposed what we call the web now. The stupid idea is the part where it says web app, and that was not him. So, short story, because I see I'm already running out of time. International policy. So, I'm sitting in a room with a lot of gray diplomats that decide about the international policies of most leading European countries in terms of computer security and hacking. And oh my God, it's all bad. And all their advisors are from Symantec and stuff like that. And I'm a hobbyist. I'm the only hobbyist that does that. So someone says, well, you know, you should actually, like, before regulating all that stuff, you might actually want to talk to the people that run the internet. In a senior British government official responds, well, we already did. And I'm like, wait, how did you know who runs the internet? And I asked him that, and he looks at me, I'm totally stupid, and it's like, we talked to all 4 of them. Okay, which 4 should that be? And he doesn't understand the question. And he goes, come on. Microsoft makes the operating system. Google makes search. Facebook makes social. And Symantec makes secure. That is how international policy works today, right? So just to give you an idea why people get burnt on the stage for knowing what a fucking opcode is. I mean, basically, there's a good comparison to like post-World War II technology. It was absolutely evil technology when a bunch of absolutely evil people used it, which, yes, Nazis were. But the moment you win over the evil people, you shoot everyone else to get the technology. I mean, look at the space race, right? The space race basically began in 1945, where the people that invented it raced to the Americans because they didn't want to live with the Russians, and the Russians raced in to get all the technology out before it was burned by the Americans. So there is a lot of technology that suddenly was really good and really cool, simply because it was no longer in Nazi use. The NSA, big scandal. Everyone, is monitored. Nope. So the story with the NSA is, I tried to sum it up shortly. Basically, they had the right technology already. It was called thin threat. So an analyst could only access data relevant to the task, blah, blah, blah. And a judge had actually to sign it off, right? And to sign it off meant to actually provide the secret key to a public key that they used for recording. So it was cryptographically sound. And then there suddenly was a budget for a new interception system. And those budgets don't fall off the sky. Those budgets come from lobbyists, from the defense industry that want to get the budget. But then the NSA technician people said, like, we're done. 300 million to roll it out worldwide. That would be nice. The budget was 2.8 billion. Oops. So no, it was canceled. Because it was too cheap, and because the defense contractor would not get a defense contract because it was already done. So it was killed, and then there was Trailblazer that the defense contractor got. The defense contractor spent 3.8 billion on. That never worked. Then there was 2006, and people clicked around MySpace and downloaded lots of porn. And the NSA had an intake problem, and so basically, if you're the world's largest signal intelligence agency and you can't do signal intelligence, that looks bad. I mean, keep in mind, the United States military, the Department of Defense, ordered the research on the internet, had the internet built, had it rolled out and let us play with it. Now they want it back, right? So it is really, really hard for an NSA to argue that they can't actually listen to everyone. So what could they do? Basically, they copied Google. Because Google already is a global signal intelligence agency. The good thing is, at the NSA there is love-int, right? Intelligence that the analyst is interested in intelligence about a certain female. And not supposed to be. This happens about 300 times a year, or no, 300 cases a year. The thing is, those are people that are screened by the military, that take polygraph tests and stuff like that, right? Google has a higher coverage, so the NSA actually surpassed Google's intake only like 2 years ago, and that just by a small margin. Google has a higher coverage, and their chief security officer goes on stages and says, never happens at Google. Ever. Sure. Do you know how MapReduce works? Every intern can query a MapReduce, put the MapReduce query into the network, and there's query domains, and one is called Gmail. Never happens. No, I mean, when I look at them, I can understand that few people at Google argue nobody has girlfriends in this company, but no, good. So, to no evil my ass. I mean, this is what they make money with. The NSA needs a task. Someone needs to tell them, get intelligence on X, Y, Z. Google makes the money with that. 96% of their income. That's a whooping, I think, 43 billion a year, because you're the rare earth element, right? If the service is free, you're the product. I think that is clear. Facebook. You guys know TCP dump? Like when you sniff on a network? Facebook stores every single packet that ever reaches or exits their network since forever. Forever. Period. That is funny if you're not a Facebook user. Which I'm not. But they actually do that. Now, I wonder where fucking Facebook Snowden is, right? I mean, the one guy is, look, the NSA, we can tell them to not do it. When we take away their infrastructure, they can take all their budget from informants, which is not tracked, go to Google and buy the profiles. I'd rather have them do it so we can still regulate them. On the topic of regulation, when people make rules that have no understanding of how the computer stuff works, so, sucking hairy monkey balls since people have not understood what it is. Because what happens, we also get medieval healthcare. Guess what? Even if you like knights and shit, medieval times really, really sucked because there's no good restroom, there's no healthcare whatsoever. Healthcare basically meant bleeding. You know what bleeding is, right? So they cut you open and let you bleed for a while because that is against the evil spirits. What actually happened in a more scientific way is basically it worked twice because people had, let's say, a form of blood poisoning. Okay, it had worked twice, so we do it always. This is what we do in computer security today. It's called update and antivirus. No, really. I mean, look, Pasteur was made fun of because he said, people, there's little things, you can't see them, they're like animals, but they're smaller, and, they make people sick. And everyone was like, yeah, invisible things, sure. And all he wanted was that they wash their fucking hands between two surgeries, right? because they infect the second patient with the first. Everyone knows that I'm talking about bacteria here, right? So basically the same what we do today, Turing machines, undecidability. No, we can fuzz everything. The regular expression is certainly making sure that there's no cross. I had people running the biggest data centers in a European country between Germany and England, where Germans only go on tracks to, running the biggest data center, and after a pen test telling me, yep, we're fine, we're the SQL injection thing, and the cross-site scripting, yeah, we turned both off. So this is exactly what we have, right? And what happens if nobody knows how to even judge if it's correct, right? How does a normal person is supposed to know whether your security work is solid or not? If you're a damn good security guy, then nobody knows about you. If you suck, the CEO knows about you quite quickly. So that is a problem. So basically, what happens in a market where there's a lot more demand than supply, you get a lot of charlatans. You get a lot of people that just talk bullshit, because they make money with bullshit, even sometimes the people that know better. And we also have an equivalent in the cyber world. By the way, the only person that is allowed to say cyber without looking stupid is William Gibson, who invented the term. Cheers. It's a drinking game. When you say cyber, you need to drink. We actually ran that on panels and conferences, and that is quite bad. So basically, we have the security issues that hit the news, right? That hit the news worldwide. Our security issues, by people that actually know better, published by them, basically is cool. You know what? If you can use the functionality of a network, there's a network that provides a certain type of functionality. You can use that type of functionality that makes you a system integrator, not a hacker, even if the network has wheels, right? So, if you're hacking a car, how about not being already connected? If you're hacking a mobile network, how about not having a SS7 connection? You're using the damn functionality. Where is the security risk? There's 5,000 other security risks sitting right next to you, but they don't make the news so nicely because that would mean that you need to, and that other people need to understand it. But the best part about medieval healthcare is potions, right? And holy stones and other stuff that you put up your ass to, get better. We have that. We have a lot of it, and we're using it. Notice, IDS isn't, will never be. And the guy who fucking invented computers, called Alan Turing, has proven why. It's called the Hodling problem. It is not possible. So IDS isn't, by the way. IPS won't. Look, every single military team that I know concentrates their work on bug finding and exploit fighting on two things. One of them is IPS. Because awesome. So a secure server, right, is a machine that speaks one protocol, provides the functionality of the protocol to you, and then does not crash when someone sends illegitimate data or malformed packets or stuff. How many secure servers have you seen written yourself, maybe? Raise your hand. Raise your hand and show me the code. Yeah. So, okay, so we can't get secure servers. Now, the idea is to protect this. That does not work, right? We take not one, but 1,500 parsers in a absolutely not managed protected language, C, written in the kernel space, of course, right? Because it needs to be fast. So, and we put it right in a path between the bad guy and our asset. That's gonna make it better, right? Yeah, it makes it better for the other side. I mean, have you seen the movie Hackers, like from the 80s? They say if you want to go into a heavy metal system, you don't go to front door, you go to back door. Today, you go to front door because the front door actually has gotten 1,500 locks that don't take keys. I mean, you can just push your finger in. Oh my God. AV can't. Hello? The antivirus industry has not managed and declares clearly that we'll never manage to even agree on the name of the viruses. Right? And try it. I mean, look it up. And so, how do you agree on what is bad? Huh? I mean, definition question. The halting problem dictates that we can't tell whether an arbitrary piece of software will ever stop. Not when, but ever stop. If we can't even tell if it stops, how we can tell anything else? Not. Thank you. You know what? And the guy proved that first and then invented the computer. God. So basically, those who don't understand computers are condemned to reinvent them all the time, poorly, and get pwned. Here's a nice example for not getting it. Isn't that cool? The United States Secret Service. Over 6,000 people. Over $1.8 billion budget. Primarily for the reason to protect the president, which includes his current location, right? And, well, then he chooses to wear a Fitbit watch. So, basically, knowing where the president is, knowing when he sleeps or is, agitated or whatever, costs you as much as hacking a fucking hipster San Francisco company that surely has protected their cloud server that they don't even know where the cloud is very, very well. That's priceless. I mean, basically the United States can, shut down the Secret Service. Maybe they buy Fitbit for the 1.8 billion. I don't know. Here's an example, and funnily enough, I thought I didn't have enough material. Now I have 1 minute and another presentation. So I'm summing up the presentation here instead of giving it to you. I'm happy to give it PXE style to you. We run a small conference that is basically a speaker-only conference, and everyone has to bring material for 15 minutes, and then you present it on request, like someone else walks up to you. So I offered to present tonight at the party, if you want to see that. The summary of that is, everyone in the world spends a lot of money and thought on, oh my God, when we have quantum computers, everything computes in parallel, we can break RSA in an instant, da-da-da. And then they try to build those computers. The United States spends a metric shit ton of money on it. And it turns out that during a nice private evening with my partner, she happens to be a biologist, and we were discussing Turing completeness. And so we have a formal proof of the Turing completeness of life, meaning a cell and a DNA. It happens to be actually a full universal Turing machine, which requires a infinite tape. And life is, as it turns out, the only known universal Turing machine, which, by the way, even Turing thought is not existing. And the thing is, he consisted out of it. And all the generals that spend all the money consist out of their quantum computers. Because they don't need fucking quantum computers, they have cells. And cells are better and faster at an edge. So that's the problem. And this is basically what I'm trying to get at, is try to get it. Try to understand what we're doing here, because you can only explain things in simple terms to people that are not computer nerds if you have really, really understood it. Because otherwise, you're ending up repeating wisdom from people that usually have their own agenda, their own interest, and, you know, a price tag for the next yellow box that you put somewhere to make it secure, right? Or buy the next certificate and whatnot. So I'm not giving this other presentation, damn it. That's the fun when you're just finished, like when you finish your talk, basically the moment you give it, you have no idea how long it runs, and this is why you bring two. So basically, the solutions that are usually offered by pen testers, and I did lots of pen testing, we do security audits, so you know, I'm not excluding myself, but especially the solutions ordered by the security industry suck hairy monkey balls, because you're just adding more broken code. The quality, Veracode has solid numbers on that. The quality of security software, the only software in the world that is worse is customer care software. Because people care even less about their customers than they care about computer security. The quality of something like Microsoft Word is about 30% better. So you should use Excel instead of a checkpoint firewall to protect your network. What the fuck? I mean, you know what the best security measure is? Don't do it. Right? If someone asks, how about we could connect this to that? The usual answer is, yeah, why not? The answer would be, why the fuck would we? You know, reduce network connections, reduce the amount of computers that you put into stuff. We haven't figured out how to build a secure computer yet. All the ones you're putting in are therefore not secure computers. And you know, this is composition. You're just extrapolating the problem to the max. And the solutions mean you're putting more computers in, so you're fixing broken shit with more broken shit? No. Just turn it off. Also, availability matters. I mean, I've seen manufacturing lines in, wow. I got an insect. Who controls that one? It's cool, I want one too. Anyway, I've seen manufacturing lines in the automotive industry for cars. They started to actually kill people instead of welding the doors on the car. It went too far in the other direction, almost killed the workers. Why? Because some smarters said, wow, you have a plant, we have to put a firewall in. There is something like packet runtimes. You know, there is something like traffic delay. And the problem is industrial control systems do not like it when the packets come 300 milliseconds later. Availability matters. So understand what you're doing. Manageability matters. Anyone has an SSL certificate here? Or a password? So, you know, instead of saying, wow, we need to authenticate this to power grid people. I mean, you know, roll out a power grid, make it really secure. X509 certificates, which is the joke by itself, that maybe buy them from a certificate authority that your browser knows, because your power grid needs to care about your browser, right? Buy it there without realizing that 4 companies control 96% of all SSL certificates in the world. Then roll it out and then they expire. And your whole civilization with it, at least your power grid. No, manageability matters. Consistency matters. If your security measure cannot say what it can and cannot do, provably, please. It is not one, right? Ask me later about a project that I once did where a very nice, friendly government agency, and they're really nice and friendly, asked the simple question, how does antivirus work? Can you go find out? And I talked to people, and I disassembled code. And that is a whole nother talk. But you can ask me about it. That's what the party is for, right? Basically, getting it matters. Because our society depends on all this shit now. If we want or not, get real. Your work matters. Time to live up to it. Thank you very much.